Hello everyone and welcome to Medicated Housewife DIY, where crafting and mental health come together. My name is Sarah. In today's DIY video, Dollar Tree Skull DIY, trendy Halloween decor, TikTok inspired, we are making 3 different Halloween decor styles using all Dollar Tree plastic skulls. Some boho, some glam, and a touch of high-end decor, plus some TikTok inspired homegrown crystals. Quick and easy, unspooky, upscale Halloween decor pieces sure to impress that you don't want to miss. You're gonna love them, so stick around. And let's go make some stuff and jump right into this. To begin with, for DIY number 1, we're using a Dollar Tree plastic skull that we've spray painted with Rust-Oleum 2-in-1 paint and primer in a flat white, and I will link that for you below. I've also taped off the teeth section of the skull with some painter's tape to protect it. The paint is fully dry, and if you haven't guessed already, we are going to make this skull look like wood because I just can't help myself. If it's a solid surface, I want to turn it into wood. We're using alcohol ink to achieve this wood look, and specifically I'm using the Tim Holtz alcohol inks in 3 different colors. They are sepia, latte, and caramel. I will link those and everything else that I'm using in the description box below. To use the inks, we need this 91% alcohol, which is different than regular rubbing alcohol that you would get like from a drugstore, but still pretty easy to find. And we're also using this set of cheap makeup brushes I got on Amazon. I will link those for you below as well. You will definitely want to wear gloves for this project because alcohol ink is, well, it's ink. So it will stain your hands, so wear gloves. And I poked a wooden skewer, like the kind you get from Dollar Tree, into the hole that's at the bottom of all the plastic skulls. That's just to help me hold it in place while I'm using the inks. What you can't see on camera is that I have a small cup of the 91% alcohol that I dip my makeup brush in and dab it on a stack of clean paper towels. Then I take the lightest of my colors, which is the latte, and squirt it onto the brush and begin brushing the color in up and down strokes onto my skull. I first want to get the color all over the skull, kind of like a base coat. And then I can build up my color from there, and you can squirt the ink onto the skull directly or onto the brush. It works the same either way, and you will find as you work with the alcohol ink that it's very forgiving. If you wet your brush with the plain alcohol, you can dilute or lighten the areas that you've already covered at any time. So it's very hard to make a mistake, and most everything is easily correctable just by diluting it with a little bit of alcohol. I continue adding more and more of the latte color, making sure to get into all the little nooks and crannies like the eye socket and stuff like that. And as I build up more and more color, it gets darker and darker. Next, I add the second darkest color, which is the caramel color ink, to the skull, using the same up and down stroke and the same technique of building up the color gradually, stroking on layer after layer to get some richer, woodier type tones. As my skull starts to take on more of a wood-grained look, which is the beauty of these alcohol inks, they seem to create a wood look all on their own. I then grab the darkest color, which is the sepia, and a smaller brush, and I try to concentrate that darker color into the recesses of the skull, like the eye socket and like the little nose divots and some of the deeper contours and wrinkles of the skull, just to give it more overall depth and some more authenticity. I also used a tiny little detail brush and painted that darker ink into the cracks on the skull just to make them look a little more distressed and aged, and I used a larger brush over those cracks to smooth out the edges and to blend them into the rest of the skull. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with the teeth, so after removing the tape, I used the more yellow of the inks, which is the latte, and I painted over the teeth with it, adding multiple layers until the teeth were a nice yellow aged color. And then I used that detail brush to highlight the lines between the teeth and the rest of the mouth with the darker color sepia, just to emphasize them. And this way I was able to make the teeth a slightly different yellow brown tone than the rest of my skull. Don't ask me why. It just seemed like the right way to go, but you be the judge. And this is how my wood skull turned out. And you guys, I'm amazed at how much I love the way this looks. I mean, it looks like an antique to me and I'm really happy with it. Although, let's be real, what is it supposed to be really? Like, it makes no sense that an authentic looking skull would be made of wood and has real teeth, like really yellow teeth, but real teeth, okay? So no realism actually going on here, but it just looks really cool. Am I right? Let me know in the comments how you really feel about this wood skull. Yay or nay? I want to know what you guys think. DIY number 2 is a TikTok inspired DIY, and I don't know about you, but I've seen tons and tons of TikToks making borax crystals and borax crystal skulls. So I just knew I had to give it a try, and I am taking you along for the ride. Beginning with a big pot of boiling water, I turned off the heat and began adding my borax to the water and stirring. The basic instructions are to use as much borax as your water can dissolve, so you keep adding until the borax starts to pool at the bottom. Then you know your water cannot hold any more borax. Now, just a note, you can get boxes of borax in any supermarket or on Amazon. Plus, this pot that I'm using is not a cooking pot. It's an old pot that I only use for like tie-dyeing and other crafts like that. So don't use any of your good pots for this. For this big pot of water, I ended up adding a whole box of borax plus another 2 cups of a second box of borax, and I stirred everything until it was all dissolved and the water still looked relatively clear, like I could see the bottom of the pot. You don't want cloudy water or you will end up with cloudy crystals, so just make sure that your water is relatively clear at that point. And the stove is turned off completely at this point. We're not going to turn it back on. We just needed the water to be boiled initially. I'm using an unpainted plastic skull from the Dollar Tree, and off camera I lightly sanded the entire skull so the crystals would stick to the plastic, and I also cut a hole at the bottom of the skull and filled it with those little white river rocks from Dollar Tree because I wanted to make sure the skull would be weighted down and stay flat at the bottom of the pot. To help it stay submerged, I also held it down while the skull filled with water in addition to the rocks that were already in it. So when the skull was filled with water and rocks, I turned it right side up so that it would sink to the bottom of the pot. I also made some pipe cleaner shapes suspended from a wood dowel to put in there and grow crystals on them too. Just because I've never tried that before, I thought I also threw in a couple of larger rocks from the Dollar Tree just for fun to see if I could crystals on those too. I'd really like to try colored crystals next time, so let me know in the comments if you have any interest in a whole video of multicolored borax crystals. Once everything is submerged, I placed the cover on the pot and left it undisturbed for 24 full hours. You can leave it anywhere from 12 to 48 hours, depending on how big you want your crystals to get. And this is how DIY number 2, my crystal skull, turned out. I really wish the camera picked up how sparkly these crystals and the skull really are. They are much more sparkly than they look on video. You just have to take my word for it. These are really beautiful looking, and I can't wait to make more of them in different colors. So make sure you let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. Just note that you must seal these with something or they will start to turn white after a day or so. But if you seal them, they will remain glowing and crystal-like. I used Decor Triple Thick to seal them. I will link it for you below, but any spray sealer will work too. I just love it when a TikTok actually works, don't you? Our final DIY number 3, and I saved the absolute easiest for last. I spray painted 3 Dollar Tree plastic skulls with Rust-Oleum 2-in-1 paint and primer in a flat white. And I made a circle with pencil around the top of each of the skulls. And taking my box cutter, I carefully cut out the tops of all 3 skulls and removed them. I pulled off any sharp edges and I chose 3 paint colors, 1 for each skull. And the first color I used was Folk Art Coffee Latte. I'll link it for you below. I mixed it with some baking soda, but I ended up hating the way the color looked, so I did change it up a little later. The second color was Decor Hauser Light Green. I will link it for you below. Also mixed with baking soda for some texture, and just like the previous color we did, I was not thrilled with this color, so I do end up tweaking that a bit later too. Third color was Delta acrylic paint in the color Salmon, and yes, just like all the others, I mixed it with baking soda and I ended up hating the color, which is the beauty of painting. You can always just paint over it, thankfully. So second try on the paint, I mixed the Hauser Light Green with Waverly White Chalk Paint, which I'll link for you below, and no more baking soda. And I was much happier with this milkier, softer green color. Then I mixed the Delta Salmon color with the Waverly White Chalk Paint too. No baking soda, and I also liked this paler, subtler type of pink as well. Lastly, I mixed the Coffee Latte with the Waverly White Chalk Paint, and I was so much happier with this soft kind of beigey brown. And this is how DIY number 3, my trio of boho skull planters, turned out. Now, when it comes to one-step easy DIYs, this one is truly super easy and truly customizable as well. You can make these any assortment of colors to suit your decor, maybe like 3 different shades of blue for an ombre effect, just for an example. And basically, the possibilities are endless. I also think that this has a little bit of a Southwestern vibe to it, in my opinion, but I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments what color combinations you would use for these oh so simple planters. And these are all 3 of my Dollar Tree skull DIYs. These are all so different, but I honestly feel they really show you the possibilities from a plastic Halloween skull toy to transform into stylish decor. I hope this proves that skulls are not just spooky, but they can run the gamut of styles from glam to high-end and trendy too. Let me know in the comments if you have a favorite of these 3 DIYs and why. And please let me know if you'd like to see a borax crystal making video that dives even deeper into borax crystal possibilities. I hope you enjoyed this Medicated Housewife DIY, and if you did, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing. It really helps out my channel. Once again, I really appreciate you watching, and a really big thank you to my subscribers. I am so glad you're here. Until next time, I'm the Medicated Housewife, and crafting is my medication.